Hi. Do you know, I am so saddened by what I see, and people just in denial about what is going on. So you just think, really? I mean, I work in a town centre, and in this town centre now we've got a boarded up Bon Marsh, whatever you want to call it. We've got a boarded up Valerie Patisserie. We've got a boarded up Bright House. On top of that, there's other shops just all boarded up, cafes boarded up. The whole thing is just a mess, and it looks a mess. And you can massively see how the homeless is just sort of escalating and becoming worse. And people don't seem to see it. People just seem either oblivious to it, that they think everything's fine or everything's going to come back or everything's going to be okay. And you just think, how can you walk past all these boarded up places and not see what is in front of your face? Because for every single business that goes, whether this is a cafe, whether this is just some little shops with 3 or 4 people, those 3 or 4 people was people who went out and bought clothes, or those 3 or 4 people was people who was taking driving lessons, or those 3 or 4 people was maybe booking a holiday or buying a car or buying a house or whatever. And people don't seem to see the knock-on effects of every single business that comes from anything that folds massively impacts everybody else. And at the moment, I mean, the Daily Mail a couple of days ago, there was an article in there saying 200,000 hospitality workers are at risk of losing their jobs. 200,000. And people just don't seem to see that it's not even those people, it's all the knock-on effects from that. You know, you shut a pub and people say, well, good, that's spreading the virus. Yeah, but that pub is also served by a brewery. That pub is also served by a cash and carry place that maybe provides the crisps and the nuts and all sorts of other bits and pieces for them. You know, and again, this just massively impacts all the other businesses. You know, and it's not just the 200,000, then it may becomes 300,000 or 400,000 of other knock-on effects from that. And people just seem to think that everything's okay. And there is no way back from this. You know, here in the UK, we don't manufacture, and there's been a long many years before we used to manufacture quite a lot. We used to have proper businesses that used to pay bonuses. A lot of people used to have company cars. A lot of people was doing quite well. My mum and dad was doing quite well, and there was only my dad working. My mum certainly never worked, but we was okay, and we could have holidays and everything. And it's just does not work. You need like 2 incomes to try and survive. You've got the rising cost of rents. So all this knock-on effect is going to massively start impacting. I think we get another, maybe April. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of people who can't even afford the flats that they're renting anymore. And these are all just going to end up moving out, moving in with friends, moving in with relatives. And there's just going to be loads and loads of flats available for rent. And also, we start getting into a territory then where people become desperate, and you can end up with squatters, and you can end up with people smashing windows to try and see what's inside or trying to find things to sell. The crime rates from this, again, add to the problem that you get more and more desperate people. I also was working in another town a couple of weeks ago, and the stealing problems there are just absolutely crazy, where people are just going into a shop and just taking whatever food they feel like. Because again, why would you pay for it? Or if you can't pay for it, you know, people are just going to obviously help themselves. And again, we just ending up in an absolute mess. And I honestly, when I just close my eyes, see a massive stack of dominoes that just knocks into another and knocks into another, and the whole thing is just on a massive downward spiral. And I honestly don't see any way back from this. I just see a mess for absolutely years and years and years to come. before we maybe get to a rebuilding or a better system. But it really is just a mess. And the people who can save, or the people who was saving, again, there's low interest rates. We're not actually gaining anything or saving anything. You know, the more the prices continue to rise, then this obviously affects our savings, and we just end up with less and less purchasing power and less money over time. And again, just a negative spiral of just a mess and a downward spiral of just something we can't even come back from. And that is so scary, that people are just oblivious to the whole mess. I mean, there might be people who think, well, I'm doing all right. I own my own house. You know, things are pretty good for me. Well, yeah, for now. But you know, where do we go when half of the neighbours decide to put their houses up for sale, and the house you think you're doing well at suddenly starts plunging in price value and ends up becoming negative equity? You know, where do we go from there? I guess to some extent now, that the best thing we can ever do for ourselves, or what I would advise every single person to do, is try and think outside the box a little bit. Try and sort of look at where you think this is going, and try sort of adjust your thinking a little bit. You know, for example, if you can possibly grow your own food, if you can do anything that's going to sort of eliminate the high prices at the supermarkets, anything that you think is going to help you, you know, if you can take on like a second maybe business or something like that. So worst case scenario, you lose your job, then hey ho, at least you have something to fall back on, which is going to help you and provide some money. But we really are in a rocky road, and I don't even want to be all negative and depressing, but I just wish I just wish people would open their eyes and see this for what it is, and not just be cheering that the pubs have shut, because somebody who works at the pub is somebody's brother or somebody's son. And how people can be cheering about this or see this as a good thing just absolutely blows my mind, because no job going is a good thing. That's somebody else who's and gone into a depression, that's somebody else who feels suicidal, that's somebody else who cannot pay their bills. And we just end up with, like I say, a massive mess. And what about the banks? How can the banks manage when you have got hundreds and thousands of people maybe who just decide, oh, do you know what, I'm not paying that overdraft, I'm not bothering with that anymore, I'm not paying my credit card, sod it, you know, I'm not bothering with this anymore, and shut that bank down, go to another one. You forget all the mess that the banks are going to be dealing with as well. And I honestly do believe that some banks will close. I honestly do think it's not sustainable, and I don't think the government will continue to keep bailing out banks that are failing. I actually think there's a line in the sand. Again, I don't know how far this is off, but I do believe there's going to be a line in the sand drawn where they just think, you know what, just let that one fail. Because it's not on, yeah, they can print money forever, yeah, they can manipulate figures, yeah, they can add something else on, yeah, you know, they can make it look all right, but it isn't all right. And I think most people have got the sense to see that we're really not in a good place. And I'm just speaking from the UK, but in all fairness, it doesn't matter what country you're in. Every single country is exactly the same. Every single country is run on a debt-based system that does not work. And people have an illusion of wealth, where you might see somebody living in a nice big house that they owe an absolute fortune on and they're struggling to pay the mortgage. You might see somebody who drives down the road in a nice car. But again, these are not owned. People don't tend to walk into a car garage and go, yeah, I'll pay 10, 15, 20 grand for that, and here's the money out my back pocket. They do not have that money. And the whole thing is just a big house of cards. And I swear to you that this is failing, and you know it is failing. So please do what you can to try and help yourself. Do what you can to try and eliminate risk as much as possible. Get rid of anything that is bugging you or bothering you, or anything that is just sort of dragging you down. And I don't want to sound all, how can I put this, saying don't pay your credit cards, but I honestly want to say that Try to eliminate things that are just going to be too hard work for you to cope with and too difficult to cope with. And again, do what you can to try and get yourself in a better position, where that means taking in some lodgers or some family friends or people who can help you with bills and make your life as easy as it's possible to be during this chaos, which again could last for a good many years. Also, you probably heard from many channels that the answer as well is to buy gold and silver and get yourself in a good position financially with that and get your money out of the system as much as you possibly can. Again, paper money is not that great. Paper money loses value over time, as you're all aware. And here in the UK, same as in a lot of countries, there is a big push to try and get rid of people using money. Every shop you go into now, there's just signs saying contactless payments, use your card. They don't like you to use money. And also, there was an article a couple of weeks ago saying they're trying to now eliminate £2 coins. They don't want those anymore. So none of this is good news. You know, it is legal tender. It is your money. Never mind, we prefer you to pay by card. Yeah, well, that's all well and good. And what happens when you get to the card payment machine one day and your card doesn't work, which I've seen many times by people, whether they've had it in the back pocket where the contactless isn't picking up anymore, whether the card's got broken in some way, shape or form, where they haven't had enough money in the card. It's just, you know where you are with cash. You know what's in your pocket. You know you've got enough to pay. You know, try not to rely too much on any system that is essentially broken. And you know it's broken and it ain't going to be fixed anytime soon. So, thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves out there. We're in for a good few years of mess, you know, but I wish you all the very best. Thank you for watching and open your eyes. Goodbye.